The phone rang at exactly 2:47 in the afternoon on a Tuesday that started like any other. Lisa was folding laundry in her small kitchen when the unknown number flashed across her screen. She almost didn't answer it. These days, most calls from strangers were either spam or people trying to sell her something she couldn't afford, but something made her pick up on the fourth ring. "Is this Lisa Rodriguez?" The voice on the other end was professional but tired. "This is Chief Williams from the Mountain View Fire Department." Her heart skipped. Fire department calls were never good news. "Yes, this is Lisa. Is everything okay?" "Ma'am, we had a structure fire last night at 1247 Pine Ridge Road. The property belongs to David Rodriguez, and you're listed as his emergency contact. Are you related to the property owner?" David, her ex-husband. The man she hadn't spoken to in 3 years, not since their divorce was finalized. The man who had walked out on her and their daughter when his drinking got so bad that she couldn't watch him destroy their family anymore. "He's my ex-husband," she said slowly, sinking into a kitchen chair. "Is he David okay?" "We haven't been able to locate Mr. Rodriguez, ma'am. The cabin was empty when we arrived, but there was significant damage. Since you're the emergency contact, we need someone to come assess the property for insurance purposes. The fire marshal needs to do his final inspection, but we need a family member present." Lisa stared at the pile of her daughter's school clothes on the table. She had a nursing shift that evening and couldn't afford to miss work. But something in the fire chief's voice told her this wasn't optional. "I'll be there tomorrow morning," she said. That night, she couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about David and that remote cabin he'd bought after their divorce. She'd only been there once, right after he'd purchased it. It was miles from anywhere, surrounded by thick forest, and accessible only by a narrow dirt road. She'd hated it immediately. It felt like the perfect place for someone who wanted to disappear from the world. The next morning, she left her 14-year-old daughter with her mother and drove the winding mountain road toward David's property. She hadn't been up there in over 2 years. The trees seemed thicker, the road more overgrown. Her small car struggled with some of the steeper sections. When she finally reached the clearing where the cabin sat, her breath caught in her throat. The structure was barely recognizable. The roof had collapsed entirely, and the walls were blackened and partially destroyed. Yellow fire department tape fluttered in the breeze, and the smell of burned wood still hung heavy in the air. She parked near a fire department truck and walked toward a man in a uniform who was taking photographs of the damage. "You must be Mrs. Rodriguez," he said, looking up from his camera. "I'm Captain Johnson. Thanks for coming out." "It's Miss Rodriguez now," she corrected gently. "How bad is it?" "Total loss, I'm afraid. Electrical fire started in the back bedroom sometime Monday evening. Lucky the rain came when it did, or we might have lost half the forest." Lisa walked closer to what remained of the cabin. She could see the twisted remains of David's old couch, the metal frame of his bed. Everything else was just ash and debris. "Was anyone hurt?" she asked, though the captain had already told her the place was empty. "That's what we thought initially," Captain Johnson said, his voice taking on a different tone. "But we need to show you something. Follow me and watch your step." They walked around to the back of the cabin, where Lisa could see the charred remains of what had been David's small back porch. But Captain Johnson led her further, to an area she'd never noticed. Did you know there was a root cellar back here?" he asked, pointing to what looked like a small wooden door set into the ground, partially hidden by overgrown bush. Lisa shook her head. "David never mentioned it." "I was only here once, and we didn't explore much. The door was locked from the inside when we found it," the captain said. "We almost missed it entirely. The fire department broke it open yesterday as part of our standard search protocol." He bent down and pulled open the heavy wooden door. A set of rough wooden steps led down into darkness. The smell that drifted up wasn't just damp earth. There was something else, something that made Lisa's stomach turn. "I need to warn you," Captain Johnson said. "What you're about to see is going to be shocking. We've already called social services and the sheriff's department." Lisa's mind raced. "What do you mean? What's down there?" Instead of answering, he handed her a flashlight and started down the steps, against every instinct telling her to run. Lisa followed him into the underground space. The root cellar was larger than she'd expected, maybe 12 feet by 8 feet with rough stone walls and a dirt floor. It was clearly meant for storing vegetables and canned goods. But what she saw made her legs go weak. In one corner, a pile of dirty blankets and sleeping bags were arranged like makeshift beds. Empty cans of food were stacked against one wall, along with plastic water bottles and what looked like a camping stove. But it was the corner furthest from the entrance that made her gasp. 8 children were huddled together on a collection of old mattresses and pillows. They ranged in age from what looked like 4 or 5 years old to maybe 14. They were thin, their clothes dirty and too big, their faces pale from lack of sunlight. But they were alive. The oldest, a girl with long brown hair and eyes that looked far too mature for her face, was the first to speak. "Are you here to take us away?" she asked in a voice barely above a whisper. Lisa couldn't find words. She looked at Captain Johnson, who nodded grimly. "We think they've been down here for several days, maybe a week," he said quietly. "They're dehydrated and malnourished, but alive." The little girl continued to stare at Lisa, and then something impossible happened. Her eyes widened with what looked like recognition. "Wait," she said, sitting up straighter. Are you Mother Lisa?" Lisa felt like the world had tilted sideways. "I'm sorry, what did you call me?" A younger boy, maybe 7 years old, peeked out from behind the girl. "Mother Lisa," he repeated. "Papa David told us about Mother Lisa. He said if anything bad happened, we should find Mother Lisa, and she would help us." "Papa David showed us your picture," added another child, a girl who couldn't have been more than 6. "He said you were kind and that you used to take care of him before he got sick." Lisa's hands were shaking now. She looked around at the 8 pairs of eyes watching her hopefully, desperately. These children knew her name, they knew her face, but she had never seen any of them before in her life. "I don't understand," she said, more to Captain Johnson than to the children. "Who are these kids? Where did they come from?" The oldest girl seemed to understand that Lisa was confused. "Papa David said you might not remember us because you haven't met us yet. But he said you would help anyway, because that's what mothers do." "We've been waiting for you," said another child, a boy who looked about 10. "Papa David said if the bad men came, or if something happened to him, we should hide down here and wait for Mother Lisa to find us." Lisa sank down onto her knees, trying to process what was happening. 8 children, living in a root cellar, calling her mother, claiming that David had told them about her. David, who had been out of her life for 3 years. David, who she thought had disappeared to drink himself to death in isolation. "How long have you been down here?" she asked gently. "Since the loud noises started," the oldest girl said. The crackling and the smell of smoke. "Papa David went to town to get food 3 days ago, and he told us if anything happened while he was gone, to come down here and wait. He said someone would come looking. We finished the last of the crackers yesterday," added the youngest, a little boy who couldn't have been older than 4. "We saved some water, but not much." Captain Johnson touched Lisa's shoulder. "The ambulances are on their way. These kids need medical attention immediately. Social services will be here soon." 2. But as he spoke, something even more surprising happened. The children began moving closer to Lisa, not away from her. The little ones reached out to touch her hands, her arms. The older ones watched her with a mixture of hope and fear. "Please don't let them separate us," the oldest girl whispered. "Papa David said family stays together. He said you would understand." "About family." Lisa looked around at these 8 faces, these 8 children who somehow knew her name and trusted her completely, and realized that her life had just changed forever. She didn't understand how or why, but in this moment, sitting in a root cellar beneath her ex-husband's burned cabin, she was exactly where these children needed her to be. The sound of sirens in the distance meant that help was coming. But as the children moved closer to her, calling her Mother Lisa with such natural trust, she wondered if she was the one who needed saving. The ambulances arrived 20 minutes later, their sirens echoing through the mountain forest. Lisa watched as paramedics carefully helped each child out of the root cellar, checking their vital signs and wrapping them in warm blankets. The children stayed close together, holding hands and whispering to each other in voices too quiet for the adults to hear. But every few minutes, one of them would look back at Lisa with those trusting eyes, as if making sure she hadn't disappeared. "Ma'am, we need to get these kids to the hospital for evaluation," said the lead paramedic, a kind-faced woman named Janet. "They're dehydrated and underweight, but they seem alert and responsive. Are you coming with us?" Lisa looked at Captain Johnson, who nodded. "The sheriff and social services will meet you there. We'll need statements from everyone, including the children, once the doctors clear them." During the 40-minute drive to the hospital, Lisa rode in the first ambulance with the 4 youngest children. The oldest girl, who seemed to be the leader of the group, insisted on riding with the others in the second ambulance to make sure they stayed calm. "What's your name, sweetie?" Lisa asked the little boy sitting closest to her. He couldn't have been older than 5, with messy, blonde hair and bright blue eyes that seemed too serious for his age. "I'm Tommy," he said quietly. "Chloe says I'm not supposed to tell my real name to strangers, but your mother Lisa, so it's okay." "Chloe is the older girl?" Lisa asked. Tommy nodded. "She takes care of us when Papa David isn't home. She knows how to make food and check if we have fevers. She's really smart." "How long have you known Papa David?" Lisa asked gently. "Forever," Tommy said, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "He found me when I was sleeping in the cold place behind the big store. He said I could come live with him and be part of a real family." Lisa's heart clenched. A 5-year-old sleeping behind a store. She wanted to ask more questions, but the paramedic caught her eye and shook her head slightly. Better to wait until they were at the hospital. At the medical center, the children were separated into different examination rooms, which immediately caused panic. The younger ones started crying, and even the older kids looked terrified. "Please," Chloe said to the doctor, her voice shaking but determined. "We need to stay together," Papa David said. "Family doesn't get split up. We promise we'll be good." Dr. Martinez, the attending physician, looked at Lisa questioningly. "Are you their guardian?" I honestly don't know," Lisa said. "This is the first time I've ever seen these children, but they seem to know me somehow. We can examine them in pairs," Dr. Martinez suggested. "But we need to check each child individually for any signs of abuse or neglect." Over the next 3 hours, Lisa sat in the waiting room as each child was examined. A social worker named Mrs. Kim arrived and began asking Lisa questions she couldn't answer. Where did the children come from? How long had David been caring for them? Did Lisa know anything about their backgrounds? "I haven't spoken to my ex-husband in 3 years, Lisa explained for the 3rd time. "We divorced because of his drinking problem. I had no idea he was living with children, let alone 8 of them." When the medical examinations were finished, Dr. Martinez had surprising news. The children are malnourished and clearly haven't had proper medical care in a while, but there are no signs of physical abuse. They're underweight, probably from irregular meals, and they all need dental work. But they seem well cared for emotionally. They're protective of each other and remarkably well behaved. Mrs. Kim looked at her paperwork. "The problem is we have no records of any of these children. No birth certificates, no missing person reports, nothing. It's like they don't exist in the system." That's when Chloe spoke up. She had been sitting quietly in the corner, keeping the younger children calm. But now she stood up with the confidence of someone much older than her 14 years. "Papa David said this might happen," she said. "He said the paper people might not understand about us. But he wrote everything down. He kept books about all of us." "What kind of books?" Mrs. Kim asked gently. "Books with our stories. Where we came from, when he found us, what we were like when we got sick or sad. He wrote down everything so he wouldn't forget, and so if something happened to him, someone could take care of us the right way." Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. "Chloe, where are these books?" "In the special box under his bed. The metal box that doesn't burn. Papa David said it was fireproof, whatever that means. Captain Johnson had stayed at the hospital to give his report to the sheriff. When he heard about the metal box, he immediately got on his radio. "The structure is still too unstable to search tonight," he told them. "But first thing tomorrow morning, we'll get a team in there to look for this box." That evening, the children were placed in temporary emergency foster care at a group home across town. Lisa watched them being loaded into a van, their small faces pressed against the windows, watching her with confusion and fear. "Why can't we go with Mother Lisa?" Tommy asked Mrs. Kim. "Because there are rules about these things," Mrs. Kim explained patiently. "We need to figure out what's best for everyone." But as the van pulled away, Lisa felt like she was abandoning them, even though she had no legal right to take them home. That night, she called her teenage daughter Maya and tried to explain what had happened. "Wait, let me get this straight," Maya said. "Dad had 8 kids living with him, and they all think you're their mom?" "They call me Mother Lisa," Lisa said, still struggling to believe it herself. "Maya, they knew my face. They were waiting for me. That's actually kind of sweet," Maya said thoughtfully. "I mean, weird, but sweet. Dad always said you were the only person who ever really took care of him." The next morning, Lisa met Captain Johnson and the sheriff at the burned cabin. The fire department's search and rescue team had deemed it safe enough for a quick search of the bedroom area. It took them an hour, but they found it. A medium-sized fireproof safe, partially buried under fallen beams but intact. Captain Johnson used bolt cutters to break the lock since no one knew the combination. Inside, they found exactly what Chloe had described. 8 notebooks, each with a child's name written on the cover in David's familiar handwriting. But there was also something else that made Lisa's hands shake as she picked it up, a letter addressed to her. "Lisa," it began, "if you're reading this, something has happened to me, and you found my kids. Yes, they're my kids now, even though they didn't start out that way. I know you must have 1,000 questions, and I know you probably hate me for what I put you and Maya through. But these children saved my life, and now I'm hoping you can save theirs." The letter went on to explain how David had started finding the children over the past 2.5 years. Some were runaways from broken homes, others were living on the streets. A few had been abandoned by parents who couldn't or wouldn't care for them. "I know what it's like to be thrown away," David had written. "After you left me, I wanted to drink myself to death. But then I found Tommy behind that grocery store, and I realized that maybe I was put on this earth to help kids who felt as lost as I did." The notebooks told each child's story in heartbreaking detail. Chloe had been living in foster care since she was 7, bouncing between homes where she was never wanted. The twins, Anna and Amy, had been found sleeping in an abandoned car after their grandmother died. Each story was different, but they all had one thing in common. David had found them when they had nowhere else to go, but the most shocking discovery was in David's final notebook entry, written just a week before the fire. "The kids ask about you all the time, Lisa. I've told them so much about you that they feel like they know you. I know I have no right to ask this, but if something happens to me, please don't let them get split up into the system. They're a real family now. They take care of each other. Chloe reads to the little ones every night. The older boys help with cooking and cleaning. They've never had a real mother, but they love the idea of you. I've been sick lately." "Nothing serious," the doctor says, "but it makes me think about what would happen to them if I wasn't here. I've prepared them as best I can. I've told them that if anything bad happens, they should find you. I've shown them your picture so many times that they call you Mother Lisa even though you've never met them. I know it's not fair to put this on you. I know I don't deserve your help after everything I did to our family. But these kids deserve a chance, and you're the only person I trust to give it to them." Lisa sat in the ashes of David's cabin, surrounded by the evidence of a life she never knew he had lived, and realized that her ex-husband had found a way to become the man she had always hoped he could be. He had just done it too late for their marriage, but not too late for 8 children who desperately needed someone to care about them. The question now was, what was she going to do about it? Lisa sat in her car outside the group home for 20 minutes before she found the courage to go inside. It had been 2 days since they'd found David's notebooks, and she hadn't been able to sleep or eat properly since reading his letter. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw 8 small faces looking at her with hope and trust she hadn't earned. The group home was a large, older house that had been converted to care for children in emergency situations. Mrs. Patterson, the facility manager, met Lisa at the front door with a tired smile. "They've been asking for you constantly," she said quietly. "Especially the little ones. They don't understand why you haven't come to take them home." "This is their home now," Lisa said, but even as she said it, the words felt wrong. "Ms. Rodriguez, I've been doing this job for 15 years, and I've never seen anything like this. These children are remarkable. They help each other, they share everything, and they've created their own little family unit. But they're heartbroken. They think you've abandoned them." Lisa's chest tightened. "I can't take 8 children. I work full-time, I have my own daughter to think about, and I live in a tiny 3-bedroom house. It's impossible." "I understand," Mrs. Patterson said gently. "But maybe you could visit with them, explain the situation? They're confused and scared." The children were in the main living room when Lisa walked in. The moment they saw her, the younger ones ran to her, wrapping their arms around her legs and waist. The older children stood back, watching her with careful eyes that had learned not to hope too much. "Mother Lisa," Tommy shouted, his face lighting up. "You came back? Are we going home now?" Lisa knelt down so she was at eye level with the children. "I need to talk to all of you about something important. Can everyone sit down?" Chloe immediately started organizing the group, making sure the youngest ones sat in front where they could see Lisa clearly. Even here, in this temporary place, she was still taking care of everyone. "I know Papa David told you about me," Lisa began carefully. "But what he didn't tell you is that I haven't seen him in a very long time. We weren't married anymore." "But you're still our Mother Lisa," said Anna, one of the 7-year-old twins. "Papa David said family is about love, not about papers." "That's true," Lisa said, her throat tight. "But there are laws about who can take care of children." "I would need to prove that I can give you a good home." "We don't need much," Chloe said quietly. "We're used to taking care of ourselves. We can cook and clean and help with everything. We won't be any trouble." The way she said it so matter-of-factly broke Lisa's heart. These children had learned to make themselves as small and undemanding as possible, just hoping someone would let them stay. "It's not about trouble," Lisa said. "You deserve so much more than just someone who lets you stay. You deserve someone who can give you everything you need." "We need you," said Jake, one of the 10-year-old boys. "Papa David said you would understand about families that choose each other." Lisa spent 2 hours with the children that day, and by the time she left, she felt more confused than ever. They showed her drawings they'd made of her, based on the photograph David had shown them. They told her stories about their life at the cabin, how David had taught them to read and do math around the kitchen table, how they'd all sleep in the main room when storms came because nobody liked being alone that evening. Maya found her mother sitting at the kitchen table, staring at David's letter for the 100th time. "Mom, you've been acting weird for days," Maya said, sitting down across from her. "Talk to me." Lisa looked at her 14-year-old daughter, so grown up and responsible. "Maya, what would you think if I told you I was considering taking in 8 children? Maya blinked. "Seriously? Like permanently?" "I don't know. Maybe they don't have anywhere else to go, and they seem to think I'm supposed to take care of them." "Because of Dad? Because of your father, yes. He told them about me, about us. They think of me as their mother, even though I've never done anything to earn that." Maya was quiet for a long moment. "Can I meet them?" The next day, Lisa brought Maya to the group home. She watched nervously as her daughter interacted with the 8 children who might become her siblings. But Maya surprised her. Within an hour, she was on the floor playing with the younger kids and having serious conversations with Chloe about books and school. "They're really sweet, Mom," Maya said on the drive home. And they're not what I expected. What did you expect? I don't know. Problem kids, I guess, but they're just regular kids who've had bad things happen to them. Kind of like Dad, actually. That night, Maya came into Lisa's room and sat on the edge of the bed. I've been thinking about what you said, Maya began. About taking them in. Maya, I haven't decided anything yet. But you want to, I can tell, Lisa sighed. It's not about what I want. It's about what's realistic. 8 children, Maya. 8. Do you know how much that would cost? Food, clothes, school supplies, medical bills. What about Dad's life insurance? Lisa stared at her daughter. She had completely forgotten about David's life insurance policy. It wasn't much, but it was something. Even if there's some money, it's not just about finances. It's about space and time and the fact that I have no idea how to be a mother to 8 traumatized children. You were a good mother to me, Maya said simply. And you were trying to be a good mother to Dad, too, even when he made it impossible. Over the next week, Lisa found herself visiting the children every day. Each visit made the decision harder, not easier. She watched Chloe help the younger ones with their homework, using skills she'd learned from David's makeshift homeschooling. She saw how Tommy still had nightmares but felt safe when his siblings were near. She noticed how the twins had created their own language of gestures and looks, communicating in the way that children do when they've learned that adults can't always be trusted to understand. Mrs. Kim, the social worker, called her into a meeting at the end of the week. Miss Rodriguez, I need to be honest with you. If you don't take these children, they're going to be split up. We don't have any foster families who can take 8 kids together. The older ones might stay in group homes, but the younger ones will go to different families. But that's what's best for them, right? Lisa asked, though she already knew the answer. Individual families who can give them more attention? Normally, yes. But these children have formed an unusual bond. They've been each other's family for years. Separating them would be traumatic, especially for the younger ones who don't remember life before David found them. That evening, Lisa called her mother. Mia, her mother said in Spanish, you already know what you're going to do. You're just scared. Of course I'm scared, Mom. This is insane. I'm a single mother working as a nurse. I can barely handle my own life. You handled your life with David when he was drinking. You handled the divorce. You handled raising Maya. By yourself, you're stronger than you think. This is different? Yes, it is. This time, you're not trying to save someone who doesn't want to be saved. These children want a family. They're asking for help. What if I fail them? What if you don't? The conversation that changed everything happened 3 days later. Lisa was visiting the children when she found Chloe sitting alone on the front steps of the group home, crying. What's wrong, sweetheart? Lisa asked, sitting down beside her. Mrs. Patterson says they found a family for Jake and Alex, Chloe said through her tears. They're leaving tomorrow. Lisa felt like she'd been punched. Jake and Alex were 2 of the middle children, brothers who had been with David for almost 2 years. That's good news, Lisa managed to say. They're getting a real family. We are a real family, Chloe said fiercely. Just because we're not blood doesn't mean we're not real. Jake takes care of Alex when he has bad dreams. Alex helps Jake with reading because words are hard for him. They belong together. We all belong together. Chloe. No. The 14-year-old stood up, her face red with anger and pain. Papa David said you would understand. He said you knew what it was like to love people even when it was hard. But you don't want us. None of the adults want us together. They just want to split us up into pieces that are easier to handle. Lisa watched this brave, broken girl fighting for her family, and suddenly she saw herself at 14, trying to hold her own family together when her father left. She remembered the fear, the anger, the desperate need to keep the people she loved safe. Chloe, sit down, Lisa said gently. No, I'm tired of sitting down and being quiet and hoping adults will do the right thing. Sit down, please, because I need to tell you something important. Something in Lisa's voice made Chloe stop. She sat down slowly, wiping her eyes. Jake and Alex aren't going anywhere, Lisa said. None of you are going anywhere. You're coming home with me. What? I don't know how we're going to make it work. I don't know where everyone's going to sleep or how we're going to afford everything, but you're right. You are a real family. And real families don't get split up if there's any way to prevent it. Chloe stared at her for a long moment, then threw her arms around Lisa's neck. Really? You mean it? I mean it, Lisa said, and as she said the words, she realized she'd never meant anything more in her life. Let's go tell the others they're going home. The first night with all 9 children in Lisa's small house was absolute chaos. She had thought she was prepared, but nothing could have prepared her for the reality of trying to fit 8 extra kids into a space barely big enough for 2 people. Her 3-bedroom house suddenly felt like a dollhouse. Maya had volunteered to share her room with Chloe and the twin girls, Anna and Amy. The 4 boys squeezed into the guest room with sleeping bags and air mattresses. Little Tommy, who was afraid of sleeping alone, ended up on a small cot in Lisa's room. This is cozy, Maya said sarcastically, trying to step around 3 sleeping bags to get to her dresser. But despite the cramped conditions, something magical happened that first night. After Lisa had tucked everyone in and turned off the lights, she heard something she hadn't expected: laughter. Quiet giggles and whispered conversations coming from both bedrooms as the children talked about their new home. Are we really staying? She heard Tommy whisper from his cot. Yes, Lisa said softly. You're really staying. The next morning brought new challenges. Lisa's small kitchen wasn't designed to feed 10 people. She had bought extra groceries, but watching 8 hungry children eat breakfast was like watching a swarm of locusts. A dozen eggs, a full loaf of bread, and an entire carton of milk disappeared in minutes. We'll eat less, Chloe said quietly, noticing Lisa's shocked expression. We're just excited because we haven't had real breakfast in a while. No, Lisa said firmly. You'll eat exactly as much as you need. I just need to learn how to shop for an army. The morning routine was another adventure. With only 2 bathrooms, getting everyone ready for school became a military operation. Chloe naturally took charge, organizing shower schedules and making sure the younger children brushed their teeth properly. She's like a little mother, Maya observed, watching Chloe braid Anna's hair while simultaneously helping Jake find his homework. She's had to be, Lisa said sadly, but she shouldn't have to anymore. Getting the children enrolled in school proved to be another hurdle. The principal, Mrs. Williams, looked overwhelmed when Lisa showed up with 8 kids and a stack of paperwork. I need to enroll all of them, Lisa said, trying to sound more confident than she felt. All 8? Today? Mrs. Williams looked at her computer screen with concern. We'll need medical records, previous school transcripts, proof of residence. They've been homeschooled, Lisa explained, and we're working on getting their medical records updated. What followed was 3 hours of phone calls, forms, and explanations. The school nurse had to examine each child. A guidance counselor needed to assess their academic levels. Lisa felt like she was running a marathon while juggling flaming torches, but the children were remarkably well behaved throughout the process. They waited patiently, helped translate for the younger ones who were nervous, and answered questions politely. Several staff members commented on how polite and mature they seemed. They're good kids, the school nurse told Lisa privately. Little underweight, and they're obviously behind on some medical care, but they're healthy. And they clearly care about each other. The first week of school was rough. Jake struggled with reading and felt embarrassed in front of his new classmates. The twins clung to each other and barely spoke to anyone else. 10-year-old Daniel got into a fight when another kid made fun of his too small clothes. Every evening, Lisa found herself dealing with homework for 8 different children at 8 different grade levels. Her kitchen table became command central, with textbooks and worksheets covering every surface. I can't do this math, Jake said, frustrated tears in his eyes. I'm too stupid. You are not stupid, Lisa said firmly, sitting down beside him. You just need more practice, and that's okay. Chloe appeared at Jake's other side. Remember how Papa David used to say that learning is like building muscles? You have to work out your brain every day to make it stronger. Lisa watched as the 14-year-old patiently explained the math problem to Jake in a way he could understand. These children had been taking care of each other for so long that it was second nature. Money became a constant worry. David's life. Insurance helped, but it wasn't enough to cover the enormous grocery bills, new clothes, school supplies, and medical expenses for 8 children. Lisa found herself lying awake at night, calculating and recalculating their budget. Her mother, Rosa, started showing up every day after school to help with homework and dinner preparation. "Mia, you look exhausted," she said one afternoon, finding Lisa staring at a pile of bills. "I don't know if I can do this, Mom," Lisa admitted. "The grocery bill alone is more than my mortgage payment. And Tommy needs glasses, and Daniel needs new shoes, and the girls need winter coats." "Have you told anyone at work about your situation?" Lisa shook her head. "I don't want people to think I'm crazy. Taking in 8 children, most people would say I've lost my mind." But word got out anyway. Maya had told a friend at school who told her mother, who mentioned it to someone at the grocery store. Within 2 weeks, Lisa's phone started ringing. The first call was from her neighbor, Mrs. Chun. "I heard about the children," she said. "My kids have outgrown so many clothes. Can I bring some boxes over?" Then it was Lisa's co-worker, Janet, from the hospital. "My church has a food pantry," she said. "And there's a fund for families in crisis. Would you let us help?" Lisa was proud and independent by nature. Accepting help felt like admitting failure. But watching Tommy squint at his homework because he needed glasses she couldn't afford made the decision for her. "Yes," she told Janet. "We could use some help." What happened next surprised everyone. The community response was overwhelming. Lisa's church organized a clothing drive. Maya's school started a fundraiser. Local businesses donated gift cards for groceries. A contractor offered to add 2 bedrooms to the house at cost. "Why is everyone being so nice?" Amy asked one evening as Lisa sorted through another box of donated clothes. "Because people like to help families," Lisa said. "And because what we're doing is special." But it wasn't all donations and community support. There were hard days too. Days when the children missed David so much they couldn't stop crying. Days when Lisa felt completely overwhelmed and questioned every decision she'd made. The worst day came 3 weeks into their new life together. Lisa came home from work to find Daniel sitting alone on the front steps, his school bag thrown on the ground beside him. "What's wrong?" she asked, sitting down next to the 10-year-old. "I want to go back," he said quietly. "Back where?" "To Papa David, to the cabin. Even if it's burned up, I want to go back." Lisa's heart broke. "Daniel, Papa David isn't there anymore." "I know. But at least there, we knew who we were. Here, everyone stares at us like we're weird. The kids at school ask why we all have different last names. They ask why our mom looks different from some of us. I don't know what to say." Lisa had been so focused on the practical aspects of their new life that she hadn't thought about how confusing it must be for the children to suddenly be part of a traditional family structure. "What do you want to tell them?" she asked. "The truth that Papa David found us when nobody else wanted us. That we chose to be a family. That you chose us too, even though you didn't have to." That evening, Lisa called a family meeting. All 9 children gathered in the living room, some sitting on the couch, others on the floor. "I know this is all new and confusing," she began. "And I know some of you are missing Papa David and the way things used to be." "We miss him," Chloe said simply. "But we like it here too. We just don't always know how to explain our family to other people." "What if we don't explain it?" Maya suggested. "What if we just live it?" Over the next few weeks, something shifted. The children stopped trying to make their family fit into other people's expectations and started just being themselves. Lisa watched as they created their own traditions. Sunday morning pancakes where everyone helped cook. Evening story time where the older kids read to the younger ones. Saturday movie nights where they voted on what to watch. The house was louder, messier, and more chaotic than Lisa had ever imagined. But it was also filled with more laughter, more love, and more life than she'd thought possible. One evening, As she was putting Tommy to bed, he looked up at her with his serious blue eyes. "Mother Lisa," he said, "are you happy we came to live with you?" Lisa thought about the question. 3 months ago, her biggest worry was whether Maya was doing her homework. Now she was responsible for 8 additional children. Her house was bursting at the seams and her bank account was always empty. "Yes," she said, and realized she meant it completely. "I'm very happy you came to live with me." "Good," Tommy said, snuggling into his pillow, "because we're happy too." As Lisa turned off the light and headed to her own room, she could hear the quiet sounds of her family settling in for the night. Whispered conversations, someone getting a drink of water, Maya helping one of the twins find a lost stuffed animal. It wasn't the life she had planned, but it was the life they had chosen together, and that, she realized, made all the difference. 1 year later, Lisa stood in her newly expanded backyard, watching chaos unfold in the most beautiful way possible. The construction crew had finally finished the addition to their house just in time for Chloe's 15th birthday party. What had once been a small 3-bedroom home was now a sprawling house with 6 bedrooms, 2 additional bathrooms, and a kitchen big enough to actually feed 10 people. The birthday party was in full swing. Neighbors, classmates, and what Lisa now thought of as their extended family filled the yard. Maya was helping the younger kids with a treasure hunt. The twins were showing off their gymnastics skills on the new swing set that the local hardware store had donated. Jake was proudly reading a story he'd written to anyone who would listen. "Can you believe this is our life now?" Rosa, Lisa's mother, asked as she carried out another tray of sandwiches. Lisa shook her head, still amazed. "A year ago, I was worried about paying for Maya's school supplies. Now I'm planning a sweet 15 for a girl who calls me Mom." The transformation hadn't happened overnight. There had been countless bumps along the way. Tommy had needed surgery to fix a problem with his ears that had gone untreated for years. Daniel had struggled with anger issues and needed counseling to work through his feelings about being abandoned. The twins had nightmares for months, and Alex had gone through a phase where he tested every boundary Lisa set, just to make sure. She wouldn't give up on him, but somehow, slowly, they had become a real family. The biggest surprise of the year had come 6 months earlier, when Lisa received an unexpected phone call. "Miss Rodriguez? This is Detective Barnes with the Mountain View Police Department. We've located David Rodriguez." Lisa's heart had stopped. For a moment, she thought they were calling to tell her he had died. "He's alive," the detective continued. "We found him in a homeless shelter about 60 miles from here. He's been in and out of treatment programs, and he's asking about the children." The conversation that followed was one of the hardest of Lisa's life. David was sober, the detective explained. He'd been clean for 8 months and was working with a counselor to deal with his addiction and the guilt of abandoning the children he'd been caring for. "He wants to see them," Detective Barnes said, "but he understands if that's not possible." Lisa had spent 3 sleepless nights thinking about it. The children had a right to see David if they wanted to, but they had also been through so much trauma, and she was terrified of disrupting the stability they'd finally found. She decided to ask them. The family meeting that night was unlike any they'd had before. Lisa explained that David was alive and wanted to see them. The children's reactions were as different as they were. "I want to see Papa David," Tommy said immediately. "I want to tell him about my new school." "I don't know," Chloe said quietly. "What if he wants us to come back?" "He can't take you back," Lisa assured her. "You're legally my children now. This would just be a visit." "I'm mad at him," Daniel said, crossing his arms. "He left us. He promised he would come back and he didn't." "That's okay," Lisa said. "You can be mad and still see him. Or you can be mad and decide not to see him. Whatever you feel is right." In the end, 6 of the 8 children decided they wanted to visit David. The twins chose to stay home, and Lisa respected their decision. The meeting took place at a family counseling center, with a therapist present to help everyone process their emotions. Lisa had prepared herself for anything, but she wasn't ready for how David looked when they walked into the room. He was clean, sober, and healthier than she'd seen him in years, but more than that, he looked peaceful. The angry, desperate man she divorced was gone, replaced by someone who seemed to have found a way to live with his mistakes. "You look good," were the first words David said to her. "So do you," Lisa replied honestly, but it was his interaction with the children that surprised her most. David didn't try to be their father again. He didn't make promises he couldn't keep, or ask them to forgive him. Instead, he listened as they told him about their new life. He asked thoughtful questions about school and friends and hobbies. He praised Chloe for taking such good care of everyone and told Jake how proud he was of his reading progress. "I know I let you down," he told them simply. "I got sick again, and I left when you needed me most. But I want you to know that finding each of you was the best thing I ever did. And seeing how happy you are now, seeing that you have a real mother who loves you the way you deserve to be loved, that makes everything okay." The visit lasted 2 hours. When it was over, the children seemed lighter somehow, as if seeing David healthy and sober had helped them let go of worry they didn't even know they'd been carrying. "Will we see him again?" Jake asked on the drive home. "If you want to," Lisa said. "But only when you want to." David had asked to speak to Lisa alone before they left. "Thank you," he said simply. "I know I had no right to put this on you, but you saved them. You gave them the life I couldn't." "They saved me too," Lisa had replied and meant it, now watching Chloe blow out 15 candles surrounded by friends and family. Lisa marveled at how far they'd all come. Chloe was thriving in high school, already talking about college and her dreams of becoming a teacher. Maya had grown into an amazing big sister, protective and loving with all the children. The boys were doing well in school, and their angry outbursts had been replaced by normal kid energy that got channeled into sports and activities. "Mom," Tommy called out, running up to her with chocolate cake smeared on his face. "Can we do sparklers when it gets dark?" "Of course," Lisa said, automatically wiping his face with a napkin. "But only the big kids get to light them." "I'm a big kid," Tommy protested. "You're 7. Chloe said, appearing beside them with a knowing smile. "That's still little kid territory, but I'm almost 8. Lisa watched the familiar sibling banter with amusement. These children who had started as strangers thrown together by circumstance had become brothers and sisters in every way that mattered. As the sun began to set, the party moved inside. The house that had once felt impossibly small now buzzed with comfortable activity. Kids doing homework at the kitchen table, others playing video games in the living room, someone practicing piano in the music room they'd added during the renovation. "Lisa," her neighbor Mrs. Chun approached with a warm smile. "I just wanted to tell you how amazing this all is. What you've done for these children, it's incredible." "They're the incredible ones," Lisa said, watching Jake help one of his younger brothers with a puzzle. "I just gave them a place to be themselves." That night, after all the guests had gone home and the children were finally in bed, Lisa sat in her quiet kitchen with a cup of tea. Maya found her there, still in her party dress. "Good day?" Maya asked, sitting down across from her mother. "The best," Lisa said, "though I'm exhausted. Remember when you were worried we couldn't afford groceries for all of us?" Lisa laughed. "Now, our grocery bill is bigger than most people's rent, and somehow we manage." "Because we're a team," Maya said simply. "All of us. When did you get so wise?" "I learned from watching you. You took 8 scared kids and made them feel safe. You took a broken family and made it whole." As if on cue, footsteps padded down the hallway. Tommy appeared in the kitchen doorway, holding his favorite stuffed bear. "I had a bad dream," he said sleepily. "Come here, baby," Lisa said, opening her arms. Tommy climbed into her lap, even though he was getting too big for it. "What was the dream about?" "That I woke up and you were all gone, that this was just pretend." "This is real," Lisa assured him, stroking his hair. "We're all real and we're all staying together. Promise?" "I promise." As Tommy drifted back to sleep in her arms, Lisa thought about the journey that had brought them all here. A year ago she'd been living a quiet, predictable life. Now she was the mother of 9 children. Her house was always noisy. Her bank account was always stretched thin, and she couldn't imagine being happier. The phone call from the fire department had seemed like a crisis at the time. Finding 8 children in a root cellar had felt like an impossible problem to solve. But sometimes the most beautiful things in life start as emergencies that force you to become braver than you ever thought possible. "Mom?" Tommy mumbled sleepily. "Yes, sweetheart. I love our family." "I love our family too," Lisa whispered back, and in that moment, sitting in her kitchen with her sleeping son in her arms and her oldest daughter beside her, with 8 other children safe in their beds upstairs, Lisa knew that David had been right about one thing. Family wasn't about blood or law or circumstance. Family was about the choice to love someone completely, even when it was hard, even when it was expensive, even when it changed your entire life. They had chosen each other. All of them, and that choice had made them into something beautiful. They had found their way home.